Okay, so let's dive right into the book of Ezekiel. It's got some incredibly harsh prophecies of doom against Israel's neighbors. And on the surface, honestly, it just looks like pure rage. But what if I told you that hidden inside all that fire and brimstone is actually a powerful message of hope? Let's decode it together. Just imagine for a second that you've lost absolutely everything. Your home, your country, your freedom. You're in exile in a foreign land. And then you get word that your neighbors, the very people who should have had your back, are actually celebrating your destruction. That's the exact gut-wrenching situation the people of Judah were in. And that feeling, that's the key to understanding everything that comes next. So let's set the scene. The year is 587 BCE. The unthinkable has happened. Jerusalem, the holy city, has been completely crushed by the Babylonian Empire. Its temple is gone, its walls are just rubble, and its people have been dragged off into exile. From their perspective, it was, quite literally, the end of the world. Now here's where the story gets a really dramatic twist. Just a few years before this, back in 594 BCE, these exact same neighbors, we're talking Edom, Moab, Ammon, Tyre, they were all meeting in Jerusalem, plotting a rebellion with Judah against Babylon. They were supposed to be allies. But when the sheer power of Babylon became clear, they all bailed, leaving Judah to face the music all alone. And it gets worse. They didn't just stand by and watch, no, they actively turned against their former friends. This betrayal sets the stage for what feels like a cosmic court case. The prophet Ezekiel, speaking for God, is about to lay out a series of very specific charges against each of these nations for what they did in Judah's darkest hour. So let's take a look at the indictment. And these charges are incredibly specific. Ammon is on the hook for malicious joy, literally shouting aha as the temple was being destroyed. Moab is charged with arrogance, basically saying Judah was nothing special, just like all the other nations. Edom's crime was pure vengeful betrayal. They didn't just cheer, they actually helped the Babylonians, looting the city and capturing people who were trying to escape. And the Philistines? They saw a chance to get rich, looting whatever was left, and even getting into the slave trade. You see, this wasn't just them watching from the sidelines, this was active, vicious contempt. But among all these neighbors, one of them stood out, a true global power, a nation that seemed completely untouchable. We're talking, of course, about the great Phoenician city-state of Tyre. Tyre was basically the commercial hub of the entire ancient world. It was a crazy wealthy, powerful island fortress, the capital of this massive trading empire that stretched all across the Mediterranean. In their own eyes, and pretty much in everyone else's, they were invincible. And Ezekiel uses this brilliant metaphor to paint a picture of their greatness. He describes Tyre as this magnificent ship, perfectly built from the best wood, manned by the most expert sailors, its cargo holds just overflowing with riches from all over the world. It's a perfect symbol of their power and their glory. But, as any sailor will tell you, the sea itself always carries a risk. And here comes the prophetic twist. The very thing that gave Tyre its wealth and its identity, the sea, is destined to become its tomb. The great ship, weighed down by its own incredible riches, will be shattered by the waves and sink straight into the abyss. The metaphor is clear. The unsinkable ship will sink. So what was Tyre's ultimate crime? Well, it goes way beyond politics or gloating over a fallen rival. The prophet zeroes in on the words of its king, who, in his unbelievable pride, actually declares himself a deity. He really believed his power and his island fortress made him a god. And this sets up this fundamental clash of realities. On one hand, you have the king's claim, I am a god. And on the other, you have the prophetic reality check, you are just a man. It's this supreme arrogance, this hubris, that's at the very heart of the judgment against Tyre. So we've seen all the charges against Judah's neighbors, from simple mockery to outright betrayal, and even claiming to be a god. Now we're going to turn to the verdict and the punishment. But this, I think, brings up a pretty difficult question for a lot of us today. When we read about divine judgment and vengeance, it can sound really harsh, maybe even vindictive. Is this just God lashing out in anger for his people? Is it really all just about revenge? Well, the text suggests there's a much deeper concept at play here. See, in a biblical context, vengeance isn't about petty, vindictive payback. It's actually understood as a form of divine justice. It's a punishment that fits the crime, one that's designed to restore a moral balance, to punish serious wrongdoing, and to stand up for those who have been wronged. It's about making things right, not just about getting even. And that idea of justice, that's the key that unlocks the true purpose of these prophecies. Because these oracles of doom, as intense as they sound, were never really about the nations they were aimed at. No, they had a hidden message inside, intended for a completely different audience. And this is the pivot point for this whole section. If the messages weren't really for the Ammonites or for the king of Tyre, then who was Ezekiel actually talking to? Who was really meant to hear these words and find comfort in them? The true audience was the broken-hearted Judean exiles stuck in Babylon. Just put yourself in their shoes, defeated, humiliated, and being mocked by all your neighbors. These prophecies were like a personal message sent to them, saying, "You are not forgotten. Your suffering has been seen. The contempt you've been shown is unjust, and justice will be done." This quote from Ezekiel just sums it up perfectly. The constant hostility and scorn from their neighbors was like a painful thorn in their side. The prophecy is a promise that God is going to remove those thorns. He's clearing away the sources of their pain and humiliation. A really great way to think about this is like a set of traffic lights. For Judah's hostile neighbors, these prophecies are a flashing red light, a divine stop to their contempt and their aggression. But for the exiles, that same red light for their enemies is a green light for them. It's a signal that the road is being cleared for their future, for their restoration, and for their eventual journey back home. So here's the crucial takeaway. The oracles of doom and the promises of restoration are really just two sides of the same coin. The judgment against the nations wasn't the main goal. It was the necessary first step to create a safe and secure future for the people of Judah. You simply couldn't have one without the other. And that leaves us with one final thought to ponder. For people in a situation of just utter despair, the promise that injustice will not get the last word, well, that's a profound source of hope. It suggests that maybe hope isn't just some vague optimism about the future, but a deep-seated trust that the world will eventually be set right.